So Sherry Schuler-Faust, take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. This is Sherry Schuler-Faust, and I'm going to talk to you about cataloging foreign language materials. So in this segment of the Online with the CMC, we'll cover some of the peculiarities that exist when you catalog foreign language materials. When cataloging, some fields are transcribed from the item itself, and some fields are recorded in the record from any source based on the cataloging rules. This is particularly important in foreign language materials. Capitalization and diacritics are important, and in materials that do not use the Roman alphabet or Latin script, a transliteration is important. The fixed field, LANG, refers to the language that is being cataloged. MARC tags 041 and 546 state the language or the languages of the item being cataloged. In MARC tag 041 is the languages in code form, while MARC tag 546 is a note about the languages for the item. More on the MARC coding will be covered later in this presentation. So the language of cataloging. The subfield B in MARC tag 041 tells us the language of the cataloging agency. I'd like to point out that OCLC now prefers subfield B in all records. There was a time when you did not see the subfield B, but now they prefer for it to be in all records. So the fields title, edition statement, publication, series, some notes, and related works are considered mandatory if applicable, as they are descriptive and reflect data transcribed from the resource. And in the series, it's just the 490 that is transcribed. The physical description, the MARC tag 8XX of the series, subject headings and coded MARC tag fields will be entered in the language of the cataloging agency. Therefore, for us, they will be in English. This is where the 04 subfield B comes to play. This is just a chart from the Bodleian Libraries at the University of Oxford that I found. It just kind of is a chart that on the left is the languages as they're found on the resource, and those are transcribed. And then the column on the right are the places where it's the language of the agency. Okay, just as in items cataloged in English, the titles are transcribed in the language and in the order in which they appear on the preferred source. For items that have 2 or more languages, the second title will be in subfield B, which is preceded by an equal sign. All subsequent titles will follow in order within subfield B using space, equal sign, space between the titles based on the layout of the preferred source. Some examples show optional PCC guidelines with regard to punctuation. So if you want to look at guidelines for implementing new PCC policy regarding terminal periods and marked bibliographic records, that'll tell you how the PCC is going to be implementing punctuation, the lack of, or the use of. And you need to check with your local system on how to code the punctuation.
Yeah, I would, in fact, you see that little thing right there?
Somebody's really talking. Someone needs to mute up.
The little microphone is, yeah. Okay, so let's see, the volume. So let's see, I think that's it.
Someone needs to mute their microphone.
Are they speaking now, though?
Yes, they are. They're going right through it.
Shoot.
I'll wait a minute till they figure this out.
How do I just close out of that?
Okay, I think it's muted. Okay, so this is an example of a Spanish language book, and there's no parallel title with this item since it's only in Spanish. In this case, there is a parallel title, so we would record both titles in R245. On the title page, the Spanish version of the title is listed first. So
why did it?
Yeah, why
it's,
did it mutate?
What is this? Select the microphone. Select the.
okay. So the title, on the title page, the Spanish version of the title is listed first. So it would go in the subfield A, while the English version of the title would go in subfield B with the equal sign preceding the subfield B. This is a sound recording that has titles in German, English, and French, along with a single piece only in the English title, which is the happy end at the end of this. The first title, German, is listed in the subfield A, and the parallel titles in English and French are in the subfield B. From Bibliographic Forms and Standards, BF&S, subfield B, it states, in records formulated according to ISBD principles, subfield A includes all the information up to and including the first mark of ISBD punctuation, i.e. an equal sign, a colon, a semicolon, or a slash, whether included or not. Notice that subfield B is not repeated for the French title, but the equal sign is repeated. Looking at BF&S, subfield B is not repeatable in MARC tag 245. Also, the title happy end is included in the subfield B since it is a separate title listed on the source of title. This title is preceded by a semicolon in accordance with ISBD principles, as it is a separate title and not a parallel title. The parallel titles are recorded individually in MARC tag 246 with first indicator 3 and second indicator 1, so that it appears in the pack as a parallel title. Since happy end, which is at the end of the 245 as our separate title, appears is a separate title. It also requires a MARC tag 246 with the first indicator 3 for an added entry. Okay, the addition statement is a transcribed field. In looking at example 2, the piece contained 1A, the abbreviation for primera, which is the word of first in Spanish. If the word primera was spelled out, you would not use the abbreviation. Just like you don't use the 1ST in English. The third example is a parallel addition statement. Therefore, according to BF&S, if an addition statement appears in more than one language, only the first addition statement is recorded in the subfield A. In records formulated according to ISBD principles, subfield A includes all data up to and including the first equal sign or slash. Notice that the fourth example does not have ending punctuation based on the new PCC guidelines. So often in foreign language materials, you'll see statements that look like addition statements when in reality they are printing statements. This happens often in foreign language materials, which I stated. These printing statements should not be recorded as an addition statement. So just like in English records, if it's just printing information, we ignore that information. It's just a little bit harder to discern in foreign language materials. Okay, publication information is transcribed from the source in the language of the source. Notice that the second example does not have the ending punctuation based on the new PCC guideline. Looks weird, doesn't it? Okay, when recording the series in the MARC tag 490, that is just transcribed from the piece. And then the MARC tag 8XX is taken from the series authority record, or SAR. Since the second and fourth examples do not have any punctuation, that shows the new guidelines. So quoted notes should be in the language of the note. Quoted notes should be in whatever language that quoted note is in. Other notes are recorded in the language of the cataloging agency. However, if you're not sure where foreign language information belongs, but it seems important, record it as a quoted note. The subfields used in the 041 carry different meanings. From B, F, and S, the codes for the languages are recorded in the order of their predominance. However, if predominance cannot be determined, record the codes in English alphabetical order. In this example, the subfield A code for the languages associated with the items and all the subfields are repeatable. As you'll notice, we have 3 subfield A's, 3 subfield J's, and 1 subfield H. Subfield J is for the language of the subtitles, and subfield H is for the original language of the primary content of the item. And then in the 546, that information is in basically sentence form. So when cataloging foreign language materials, if possible, you should include MARC tag 240 for the uniform title of the original piece, followed by subfield L for the language of the item you're cataloging. Also, cataloging in general, you may include 7XX fields depending on what you're cataloging. Notice that the 4th example does not have the PCC punctuation. So as we discussed earlier, the fixed field for LANG, the MARC tags 041 and 546 play very important roles in cataloging foreign language materials. All of these elements should agree with each other. So if you look at this example, it says the language of the item is in Spanish. We have in the 041 that it's in Spanish, but the original item, the original book or whatever was written in English, and then in the 546 we have in Spanish. So all of those agree. Okay, subject headings. Subject headings are entered in the language of the cataloging agency. However, you may see records with subject headings in other languages from various thesauri using subfield 2 with the appropriate source heading code for the thesaurus used. Your agency may have local policies on retaining or deleting subject headings of the different languages, so that you'll have to discuss with your agency. For juvenile records, you may also find juvenile subject headings for the language of the item. This kind of goes beyond the grain, since a MARC tag 650 is a heading for what the book is about instead of what the book is, although using this in the record helps bring your language materials together. Conversely, based on the scope note, we can use Spanish language materials, French language materials, German language materials, etc. as an LC genre form heading, coding them as a 655 second indicator 0 without the subfield 2 for adult materials. Be sure to check the authority file before adding a language as a 650 second indicator 1 or 655 second indicator 0, because many of the various languages are not in the authority file. This definition was taken from the RDA toolkit. In general, capitalize the first word of each name and title in English and follow the capitalization rules for each non-English record following the rules of that language found in Appendix A33 through 35. And if you look at A33 through 35, it kind of goes through each language and it tells you what their rules are. And I'm sure that I don't think that all the languages are in there, but I think most of the languages are in that appendix. So diacritics. Many languages use diacritics that we do not have on our keyboards in the alphabet. OCLC provides a chart that includes diacritics on the toolbar using the symbol ALA. This function comes standard with OCLC connection, but if for some reason you don't have it on your computer, you can always go to the, you can always put it on your toolbar by going to Tools, Toolbar Editor, find the ALA tool and drag it to your toolbar. So languages that do not use a Latin script need to be transliterated and romanized in the bibliographic record. These examples are for the book Horton Hears a Who. As we discussed earlier, capitalize words in transliterated names and titles as instructed in RDA A31. If a language has no system of capitalization, capitalize the first word of the title or a sentence with the first word of the name of the corporate body. Capitalize proper names according to English usage. So I use Google Translate mostly, but you can also use Lexilogos, and with those you could initiate a keyboard in the language of your item, and you can also get the transliterated form. For Arabic and Persian languages, a transliteration option is available under the Edit tab in Connection. You can find guidelines on transliteration of several languages using the Help section in Connection by searching the language. However, not all languages are discussed in the Help section. So when adding the transliterated form into your record, you input a field in the MARC with the MARC tag and the transliterated information. So if you look at this example, the first 245 has what was on the book in the Russian Cyrillic alphabet, and the second 245 has the transliterated form in the Romanized alphabet. So you need to link those two together, and to link those two scripts together, you highlight the MARC tag of the Latin form. You click on Edit, click on Linking Fields, and click on Link Fields. As you can see in OCLC, when the non-Latin script and the Romanized script are linked together, a bracket is shown to the left of the MARC tags that are linked together. If you're cataloging an item in Arabic or Persian, Connection has a function to input the non-Latin script. So you would, if you could get the transliterated form, you go on that and then you click your edit screen and transliterate, and then you see Persian or Arabic, and if you're in Arabic you click on Arabic and it puts in the Cyrillic alphabet. Okay, this is just a snapshot of the client view of Polaris. And this shows you how the link fields that we just saw in the previous slide display using the MARC tag 880, which is an OCLC supplied system supplied tag when non-Latin script is entered. The 880 field does not appear in OCLC online displays. Instead, the content of the 880, with the exception of subfield 6, displays with the tag of the associated field. In actuality, for Polaris and maybe other local systems, the MARC tag is at the bottom of the record, but I just move things around so you could see the correlation between the 245 and the 264 and the 521, etc. So this is a look of the online display from Polaris of the same record. You can see that the Cyrillic is actually in a different color, but it also shows the transliterated forms. So cataloging a bilingual book that's English and a non-Latin script is similar to cataloging a bilingual book that is in two forms of Latin script. The equal sign still precedes the subfield B for the second title, and you will still need to include the transliterated text for the non-Latin script. As in other bilingual books, be sure to include a MARC tag 246 for the second title. So these are the sources that I used. The PCC Guidelines for creating bibliographic records in multiple character sets was really a valuable tool. The fourth one down is the Bodleian Library that I got that chart from them. And yeah, the RDA toolkit was very helpful as well. So thank you for attending this presentation. On the call today, along with myself, is Ian Anderson, Dr. Pamela Thomas, and Aaron Rose. Just remember to complete your evaluation form at the end of my events, at the end of the thing under my events. And at this time, we'll entertain any questions on cataloging in foreign language materials, or if time allows, questions on other things.
Hi, Sherry. This is Pam again. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. There's a microphone at the bottom left of your screen. You can click on that. We just ask if you unmute yourself to remute yourself after you've had your question answered. We don't have any questions right now. Like she said, don't forget to fill out the evaluation on L2. A link to this recording will be sent out soon. And right now we have the presentation slides on L2, but we'll have the presentation slides with the notes on L2 after this webinar is over. And we are always looking for future topics for us to cover. So if you've got any great ideas that you'd like us to cover, we can do that. Nobody has any questions about cataloging foreign language materials? Oh, here we go. Okay, so Paul R. says, what about a book that is in two different non-Latin languages? Would I still follow the guidelines for a bilingual English and another language?
Yeah, the rules would stay the same. Yeah, that would be a fun book to catalog. Especially if one of them was in like Arabic and Russian, then that would be, yeah, that would be interesting. That would be a challenge. But yeah, you would follow the same rules. And I guess to further answer that question, if it's, even though they're in two separate non-Latin languages, as far as all the like the notes that should be in English and the subject heading, that would still all be in English. It would just be the actual tags, MARC tags that are transliterated from, or I'm sorry, transcribed from the piece itself.
B. Christensen, can you finish your question? And we have a question from Don. Recently I had a Spanish translation of a Japanese book. Should I include a note with English translation of title?
Recently I had a Spanish translation of a Japanese book. You know, that would be up to you. I probably would, just because I think it would be helpful to people looking at it in the catalog to know what the English title was, but it's not, I mean, that would be up to the cataloger.
I think that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I think I would just because I don't read either of those languages very well, especially the Japanese.
Okay, so RSA says, does the CMC catalog foreign language materials if the library does not have in-house expertise, or does it need to be considered a special collection at the library in order for the CMC to catalog it?
It does need to be considered a special collection. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you just have one Russian book or one Arabic book, that would not fall under the guidelines of the CMC. But if you have a section that, and you have, you know, if you have a section, i.e. special collection, then that would fall under it.
And it could even just be like could it just be a generic special collection of foreign language materials? Would that be specific enough?
I kind of think, personally, I think that would be a stretch.
Okay.
But that's up to project coordinator.
Oh, you mean me?
Yes.
Well, I was also going to say that we're not like the library police, and I mean, we do ask questions, but I suppose if somebody tried to sneak one in, we might go ahead and catalog it. But we do ask questions, yes. Also, B. Christensen says, could you please give a few more examples of how to tell the difference between a true edition statement and a printing statement?
If you're talking about just with the foreign language items, they'll say the word, like that one was reimpression, or I mean, it was in Spanish. I'm not saying it right, but usually I'm going to use Spanish as my biggest example. Is you'll often find like Primera edition with a date, then however you say second with a date, and third with a date, and fourth with a date. Those are just printing
statements.
Yeah,
right?
but I would say if it's Primera edition, to me that's first edition. That's the first time they printed it. But all the other ones are just printing dates, and you'll find that a lot in Spanish for sure. I tried to look in, I have some Korean books here, and I tried to see if I could find edition or printing statements in those, but I couldn't because I don't know how to read the Korean. So, but the Spanish I could definitely pick out, and usually they'll just have a lot of things that look like edition statements, but they'll have, like, 2004, 2005, 2006, and actually in English books they do the same thing, but we actually usually use the word printed or printing. Right. So that's why it's just a little easier. They seem to use impression or edition instead of saying actually printing, which I don't know the word for that either. But yeah, those are the best examples I can give. Usually if you see a bunch of dates, and especially if there's like a year apart, those are not editions.
They're just printing statements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. RSA just said that's what we thought about the foreign language collections, and thank you for clarifying. Okay, does anybody else have any questions about cataloging foreign language materials? If you don't, we can also answer any general cataloging questions that you might have. Those are all good questions, though. Okay, so Don has an example of first kill as a video recording. Instinct detour. This is an example from a record for a video. As I understand today, this needs a parallel, like the equal sign before the second title.
The instinct, whatever, how you say that?
Detour?
That sounds like a, I mean, I don't know what that means.
That sounds more like a subtitle.
Looks more like a subtitle to me.
Yeah, because if that's,
yeah.
Is it French? Because that's not first kill in French. Yeah, that's a subtitle.
I don't think that's French. I think that's...
Well, it might be.
It might be French. I didn't mean that.
But it's not French for first kill.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. So,
those, French classes in high school were a long time ago, Don. You're really testing it, but it's instinct of the something. But I don't know what that tour is.
Yeah.
Google that for us.
If it's a subtitle, you
Yeah,
treat
that's
it
what
like
looks
any other subtitle, and
not use the parallel.
and your
Right.
and the way you have it done is correct. On the cover, it really looked like the title. Oh, Killer Instinct in English. So it could be. So yes, in that case, it would have the equal sign if that is the French title, which it looks like it probably is by what Dina said. And then of course the word instinct would be the I would be capital. So it would be first kill equals be instinct day tour.
I wonder why they didn't use the word first. That's interesting.
Well, that's the trouble when you
Translate.
when you translate things, they don't always make sense to what they
They're not true.
well, they are true, but that's the way they say it and not the way
Right.
we would say it. So that's what makes it challenging.
Hmm.
And then you would also make sure that you have a 246 first indicator, 3 second indicator, 1 for the French title.
Instinct detour. Okay.
Yeah.
John says thanks. All right. Are there any other questions about foreign language materials? Okay. Paul R says, if a work is in multiple languages, like a movie, is there a way in a record to note which language is spoken most versus any others?
Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but maybe this is it. I just saw a movie where the narration was in French. The people spoke in the movie with subtitles. They spoke in English, they spoke in Italian, and they spoke in Arabic, which, I mean, they were actually speaking that. It wasn't just in the subtitles. So
Right.
throughout the whole movie. So I don't know if, I mean, I would say you could put that in a note. And in this case, my note would have been the predominant dialogue was French.
Okay.
So, but as far as your coding in your 041, that would not matter. You would still do it in the alphabetical order of the languages spoke. And in your 546, I would also just keep the note in the 546 with the languages spoken, and then a separate note I might say, but the language was predominantly in French or whatever.
Just do a 500.
But yeah, but your 041 and your 546 you wouldn't be able to distinguish on that.
Okay. And yeah, he said, yeah, that's what he was thinking of.
Okay. That's an interesting question. I like that.
I was thinking same. Okay, interesting. Okay, are there any other questions about cataloging foreign language materials? Paul says thank you. Okay, he says from time to time I process movies that are like I described. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. I'd like to see some of those movies. Send the titles, no.
CMC at illinoisheartland.org. If anybody doesn't have any questions about foreign language materials, we can also answer any general cataloging questions. And again, we are always looking for future topics to cover for these sessions. So, okay, RSA says, does the CMC know of any vendors that specialize in foreign language cataloging? I do not.
No, I do not. I can say that as far as the CMC goes, I try all languages. I'll give it my best effort, and I've been pretty successful in a lot of them. And I do have myself, I have a niece that speaks Arabic, so Arabic I send them to her, and she types them up for me, and then I just paste what she types up into the record. But I don't know of any. I mean, maybe the universities that are in your area might have someone who catalogs different languages and they would do it for you, but I would think mostly with a fee, but I don't know of any vendors that do.
Anybody out there knows of a vendor,
Yeah.
feel free to type that in the chat box. So they're looking for vendors that specialize in foreign language cataloging. They say, okay, that's helpful. A for good effort, for sure. But just remember, I say, if it's a special collection, then Sherry will catalog it for you.
I love a challenge.
It does. Indeed. Okay, are there any other foreign language cataloging questions or general cataloging questions? Okay, I'll just put in a plug. We've got our next session coming up in January on rare book materials. So Vince and Aaron will be doing that. So if you haven't already registered in L2 for that session, please do so. We might add a couple more sessions in the spring, but I will let all of you know that when that decision's been made by me. Okay, nobody has any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording, and I just want to thank everybody for logging in. I know this can be kind of a crazy time of the year.